Hello again, and welcome everyone on Facebook Live to day 4 of On Being Ourselves conversations on healing, acceptance, and freeing our uniqueness into the world. We just tried to do a Instagram live and a Facebook live at the same time. It's okay, we abandoned it. We hope that those who are with us on IG, follow us over here. But it's all good. We're gonna get it started and keep it simple. Keep it simple today. I think the energy is simple today, and we're gonna flow with that. It's all
Yes.
to the Jeezy. All right, I am pulling us up on Facebook so that we can be integrated with the chat and see how folks are doing and what they're saying. So, all right, I think we're good to go.
Yeah,
You
I think we're good,
selfie?
friend.
All
Yeah.
right, awesome sauce. Let me take these off.
And
Well,
you're still hearing me. You're still hearing me. All right, right?
I'm still hearing you totally fine.
Cool.
You still hearing
Cool.
me totally fine?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool, 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 cool. Well, we've already said, you and I have already checked in, and this is going to be a conversation where we are, right? Um, the title of today's conversation is allowing your messiness and your glory, right? Allowing our messiness and our glory. And the energy, I think, right now is kind of messy, right? Messy as in not something that we would typically hope for or look forward to um, or welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's a part of us. It's
Right.
life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's energy that we are met with. It's feelings that we're met with. It's situations that we are met with, regardless of what those look like, because that messiness can change or it can look different, and we don't have the choice that we will come into to mess, right? Like that we will come into those unwanted situations, unwelcome situations, and it is what it is. And so how fitting that on today we would be feeling such a way, right?
Indeed. Indeed.
So let's just kind of do a check-in before we get rolling, or as we get rolling to get rolling. How are you feeling today, Chelsea? And for those of us joining on the live, thank you so much, first of all, and please let us know where you're checking in from and just how you're doing
How
today.
you're doing too.
I'm
Yeah.
reminded of there's like a challenge going around. I think it's like the "How are you really?" challenge,
Hmm.
and that's I think that's the energy we're kind of digging into today. Is like, how are you really, right?
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments. And
Yes,
Chelsea,
please.
where's your energy at? How are you feeling?
Well, I was telling you this morning, friend, like I'm in a space where I'm really tender today.
Mhm.
Everything that's been going on and like stuff unfolding in my own life, but also stuff
Mhm.
unfolding in the world. And it's a lot of, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And some of it's like really heavy. Some of it's actually really filling and good. Some of it
Mhm.
is um, really angry. Some of it's a lot. And so
Yeah.
I was thinking, I should probably get some tissues because we don't know
Ooh,
what's gonna come
ooh,
out.
because we don't even know, right?
We don't even know. But
That's real life.
that's where I am today.
Yeah. Ooh, thank you for bringing that in. Um, I am feeling similarly. Um, tender, slow, resonant. Um, I am also there's a lot, right? As you said, there's a lot. There's a lot of different things. Um, there's a lot that I'm personally cycling through, in my own life. A lot that has come up for me this week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, things that I'm reflecting on and in and moving through and just like in the midst of, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when we go through it, we go through it.
We
And the
go
only choice
through.
that we have is to resist or be in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
in it right now on a personal level. Um, Also, I think just feeling like some of the collective energy of heaviness is what I would
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
Just heavy. So
Yeah.
it's real. It has me just, I don't know, and it's been rainy here the last few days. Like,
Girl, please send some rain. We need some rain.
yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Shoot. I mean, listen, when
But
I say rain every day, and like,
mm,
I think there's only been one night this week, within the last week, that I've gone to sleep and it hasn't been raining.
wow.
It's like the rain comes to put me to sleep. Personally, I'm enjoying it, but just yeah, a lot of rain. So it's wet and it's kind of dreary, but mostly just wet, which just feels like water, which just feels like emotions, which just feels like a lot happening, a lot
Yeah.
coming up and out. So
Yeah.
yeah. Woo. I'm just feeling it even more. Well, I want to tell folks a little bit about how we know each other and how we find ourselves on a call today with each other.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nikia also said something in the comments that I just want
Yeah.
to acknowledge. She was like, anxious about doing needed things, but feeling refreshed at the same time, a mix of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mix. Real talk. Anxiety has been upon me this week as well. So I feel you, Nikia. Thanks for being here.
Yay.
Hey, homegirl.
Tell the people how we know each other, Ife.
How do we know each other? Well, Chelsea and I met in the online business space, as most of us like to call it, right? Um, I want to say in 2015. I think it was the end of 2015. It was December 2015. Girl,
It's been a minute, friend.
it's been a
It's been a
minute.
minute.
So I met Chelsea when I was first about to take the leap into like, okay, I'm a life coach for real. Let me figure out how to do this, right? I had kind of already decided, but I'm like, I need help. Let me find the help. Chelsea emerged and was just this light. So Chelsea at the time was working with online business. She still works with online business owners, and I'll let you describe this yourself, Chelsea. But she was working with us coaches, us heart-centered entrepreneurs on getting our work out into the world, right? Letting it see the light of day, which I needed a lot of help on at the time. And Chelsea was just such a light that I instantly resonated with. And so that's where we started, She was like my business coach of sorts. And since then, we have our relationship has deepened into a full friendship. And for the longest, we only knew each other on the internet, which was so funny and so cool. And it's these days we live in. It's kind of amazing the kind of full relationships that we're creating just via the internet, right? And I got to finally meet her in person last year, right before I left for South Africa. She came to my going away party and we spent a couple days together, which was just magical.
Yeah,
So
that was
Chelsea's
one of my favorite
also,
moments.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So Chelsea's from Jamaica and she lives in Jamaica. And yeah, I love so much about her. Now we're learning Zulu together. Like I think we're catalysts for each other's growth, right? At this point in each other's lives, which I'm so grateful for. And this conversation, the idea and inspiration for this conversation came up for me because Chelsea and I are constantly having conversations about this, right? How to allow the messiness and also how to allow the glory, right? Like the balance in all of the situations. How to just let ourselves be and like knock down, drag out, like effed up, right? When it's real, and also how to honor the realness of the balance in our existence at all times, right? Just really honoring, I think, the fullness and the realness in the totality of our experience as people, as humans, and I think certainly as creators.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what better person to come on and talk about, to have this conversation with, right? And if you've been with us these past few days, we're not here showing up as experts. We're not here to give you some tips and tricks. We're talking
Step
about
one, step two, step three, step five.
nah. We're here to really talk about the journey as we've lived it, as we are living it, and the comings and goings of how it all works and how it all flows. And we hope that you find yourself and your journey in these conversations, and also that you contribute to this combo, because that's exactly what it is. All right, girl. Please tell the people who you are, what you do, but also just how you see yourself.
Whew.
I know.
I'm like,
whoa, girl, what? Why would you ask me such a thing? That's the hugest question of all time. I know. Just let it flow.
but seriously though, on a real level, this is why I love this girl. Like, this is why I love Ife. Like, just casually tell the people who you are, what you do, and how you see yourself. So let's start with the what I do and all that.
Right. Easy part.
Easy part first. I like, in terms of what I do in life and career, I am an online marketing consultant, more or less. So I help coaches, consultants, and other service providers like designers and copywriters really craft a message and kind of find clarity in what it is that they're trying to bring into the world and what they're trying to say, and launch that, put it out, birth it in a way that is aligned with where they are and aligned with where their people are. So a lot of what I do is like practically planning marketing campaigns, doing a lot of strategy for people, writing emails, writing copy for like website pages for people to register for conversations like this, and trading and all these things, and ensuring throughout the process that the steps that we're taking and the different ways in which we're showing up are aligned with not only my clients, but the people that they are looking to serve. So that's kind of the work that I do. But
she's damn good at it, y'all.
Thank you, friend. And as Ife said, I am Jamaican. I live and work in Jamaica. Yadi, full time.
Hey. I'm always like, come on with the patois, Chelsea. Let it out, girl. Let's go.
But I mean, in terms of like just thinking about how I see myself, I think that has, as it should and will for the rest of my life, evolved. And I think I was saying this to Ethan the other day, like in so many ways, I came into the online business space, and I'm kind of speaking a lot about career, but I came into the online business space wanting to actually help people have conversations like this and like discover depth and identity in themselves. And then I kind of talked myself out of that. It was like, nobody's gonna pay me money to do that. That don't make no sense. And so started doing like social media and branding and working remotely and understanding marketing and learning from a bunch of different people and trying a bunch of different things. And I love what I do, learned a lot. I'm good at what I do, but also I'm finding myself circling back to this thing of the deep, meaningful conversations that are behind the things that we do. So I can create a marketing campaign for you. I can write a bunch of emails for you. But for example, how well your marketing campaign actually goes is actually a lot dependent on like where you are internally. Ooh. And what you are opening up into your world and what you are welcoming, what you are resisting. That's a whole thing. Yeah. And so I think now I'm seeing myself, if I were to describe it in any way, is as unfolding in a lot of ways. Yeah. I've been resisting the work for a while. And as Eva always says, the resistance is always worse than the thing itself. Listen, I remember when Ife said that most recently, and I was like, friend, You are preaching to me right now. Like, seriously? The Lord is here.
Hello.
But seriously though, I think that if it were one word, if I could describe, not that it has to be one word, but unfolding just feels accurate.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of flow happening in my life right now. I'm not like doing a lot of forward planning like I normally would. Like I would be like setting my goals and putting everything in my project management app and like all the things.
Yeah.
And I've let go of a lot of that. Not to say that there isn't a time and place for that. And I think the time and place for that will come again, probably really soon, because I'm finding that in the flow, there's like a lot of things coming. So I'm like, how am I gonna do all of this?
Yeah.
So the project management app will probably need to come back soon. But
at some point.
But the flow is happening and the unfolding is happening, and that's kind of where I see myself at right now. So
Wow, that is like so entirely beautiful. I am just wow. I love that. I love that. I love that.
and you know what, friend? Like I feel like that is the definition of this conversation in a lot of ways, because I like you and I have talked about this so many times.
Yeah.
And I remember, and Shirley may or may not be on this call right now.
Hey,
but
Shirley girl.
if you are, hey Shirley friend. She is another one of our dear sisters. And like we've had these conversations about like over and over the deep work that's behind what we do in the world, like the actions that we do in the world and the things and the career and all the stuff. And how like where we are, we can tend to push past where we are and try to be something else or try to make something else of it instead of like being in where we are and finding the beauty in what may not have been where we would choose to be, but what is flowing, you know? And I'm finding in this space right now, there's just so much fullness in what is flowing that I'm just like, oh, I mean, it feels kind of all over the place, but this feels good.
I love it. Okay, so I would love to like go back to, for us, like what it was like. So, okay, the online business space, it changes all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's constantly changing.
And we don't have to only talk about business and the online business space, but that was the context that we started.
No, absolutely. I think this is just naturally where I'm going. And I think regardless of whether folks can relate on a business level or not, that, you know, this will hopefully hit, right? Is this experience that we had. I think you, me, Shirley, we're all like biz besties, right? And have sort of come up in our own ways in this business thing, whatever the heck that is, together, right? And I'm remembering how essentially we tried to follow what everybody else was saying about how you do online business. We tried to follow, okay, here's this webinar on this, and it says do this, and this, and you know, host your webinar, do your launch, blah, 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 and then boom, everything will work out for you, right? Or on the contrary, there was also all these like things not to do in online business. There just were these rules and these boxes, and there were these people who were like, I know the way, let me show you the way, and this is not the way, you know, right? And I think I'll speak for myself first in this. First of all, I want to say that was happening in the online business space, and to some degree it still is, although a lot of people call bullshit on it, and so things have changed, right? Which is
no,
really,
but
go ahead.
Girl, a lot of people call bullshit on it and then turn around and do the same exact thing. I've been seeing that over and over. I'm like, they love to talk about how bro marketing is whatever, and but you turn around and do the same exact thing. Like, how is what you are doing different? And don't get me wrong, like I mean, I'm trying not to like be mad at these people who do that,
right.
because I think it's a desire to pursue something different, right? I think that's where that's coming from, and so they're probably still trying to figure out how they're gonna do different, you know. But so often we can have people who are telling us like, this is the way you do this.
Exactly.
We are the ones who are showing this is the appropriate way to do.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is what would classify you as successful, as a contributing member of society, like all of these lists and
all of the things, right? And beyond business, most of us have grown up on some level given the same kind of model about everything, right? Same. You know this, we know this, right? Me and you, I think me, you, and Shirley, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think we all identified as perfectionists at one point or another, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, perfectionism, in my view, is really, it's based in fear, right? It's based in our fear of being seen as not doing it right, not doing it good enough, right? The thing is, so many of us, because we're raised in cultures that give us these, that have given us these models and said, this is the way to do it, this is not the way to do it. And I think a lot of us, just out of survival, in the need to be, or out of seeking acceptance and seeking love, we learned how to perform to those standards, how to fit into those boxes, how to do those things so that we could receive, right? Acceptance, approval, love, and achievement, right? And many of us learned how to be poster children. Many of us learned how to be, the ones who got it all right, the ones who looked like they were getting it all right. And sure enough, for so many of us, there actually is this burning in our soul somewhere to really show up fully as ourselves.
Yes.
Have a knowing that this box is not me, or in whatever way I am showing up in alignment with the expectations of society or expectations that come from outside of myself, is not fully me. It stifles me in a way, and I have a need to show up fully as myself. And I think a lot of what happens, and let us know in the comments if this is resonating at all. Let us know what some of your boxes were or are.
Ooh, Ariel says, y'all just snatched my emotional edges.
Let's go. That's what we're here for. Let's get it. It's just gonna be gone. Right? So I think what's so many of us who find ourselves following this pattern, and sure enough, I think it's huge. I think it's been huge for millennials in general.
Yes, friend.
I think it's been huge, and many of us are on this path, and we find ourselves on these paths because we're trying to figure out how to free ourselves. If that path leads us to business, right? Because I don't want to have to work this job that's not totally me, or whatever, or I have this thing inside of me that wants to come out in this way that's me, and business is that way. Then a lot of what I've seen is we cycle through learning. Like, we want to show up as our full self, and yet we're still very used to hiding. We want to show up as our full self, we're still very used to following everybody's boxes. We want to show up as our full self, we're still used to survival, our patterns and mechanisms that came out of needing and wanting to be approved of, love, etc., and finding that outside of ourselves. Sure enough, that is not sustainable in entrepreneurship, right?
No, it's not.
In much of any
anything,
any endeavor, exactly.
Any endeavor in life, it's
any
really
endeavor that's going to actually go somewhere, that's going to find legs, that's gonna walk its way out. Like the knowing and the fortification and the approval has to come from within, or from something that does not change or move. right?
Yes.
Right? From
Yes.
ourselves, and or our higher power, whatever it is that we feel connected to that is not changing, right? So yeah, I mean, that's been a
And
journey, right? Yeah, go ahead.
it has been a journey, and it feels so like something that I've come to a lot more recently. I think probably in the last, actually, I would maybe even say like 3 months, which was before my period of a lot of like stepping into flow, because I feel like in the last few weeks, like in the last 3 weeks or so, I've really kind of stepped into flow in a way that I never have in my life.
Congratulations, girl.
Thanks, friend. This is working on me.
I'm like, I gotta give you some hearts on that, my own self.
But even before that, I think I was like wrestling with how to give myself that permission to be on a journey. And so like way back when I recorded my first podcast episodes and took like weeks to publish them, right? So this was months ago that I recorded like probably the first 4 or 5 podcast episodes and didn't publish them for like at least a good 2 months. But even back then, I was like, all right, I think unconsciously, I was in a space where I was like, I gotta give myself space to do this and let it be moving forward a little bit every time. And so I started talking about how marketing and launching and business is iterative, and how you try one thing, you collect all the results and all the data, then you say, okay, what have I learned? How can I move forward? How can I do this in a way that will get me the results or a little bit more of the results that I want to see? And I wanted to push against this idea in business, and I hope you guys can see the analogies like in life. I wanted to push against this idea that you follow these steps and you automatically get the result, and then you can rinse and repeat that same process every single time. That's not how life works.
Period.
Like, not at all. And I think often because of like these boxes and these checklists and these gurus and experts and people who we look up to and respect in society, who tell us this is the way it should go, we end up in a space where we think that if we check all the checklists and like finish all the things and pack the box is all good. And oftentimes it takes like the box exploding for us to realize
exploding
that thing. Like massive explosion and mess. And it's at that point that I think we have such a powerful opportunity to step into the flow of it. Because like I was just in a space for the last few months where like everything was a mess. Everything was a mess. I was like, what in the world is going on in my life? Jesus, what the heck is this? I don't get it. What? And I was pushing and trying to check all the boxes and trying to do all the things. Girl, I was doing so many things, like shoot. And none of it was working. And my brother, I was talking to my brother about it, and he was like, Chelsea, look, if God has closed this door, there is nothing you can do that can open it.
Come on now.
If your box has exploded, you can't unexplode the box.
You know, there's no going back.
You can't go back. So
there's shards. Like there's nothing but shards on the floor. Like there's nothing here.
It was like everything everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, it's all over the place. You cannot close the box. You can't, like the box doesn't even exist.
It's uninhabitable.
You can't, exactly. You can't live in that space. Like it's not livable. It wasn't livable before, but now it has proved to you that it's not livable.
Yeah.
And so he was like, you probably need to go like pray and maybe go on a fast and figure out what the Lord is saying. And that's what that 3-week journey of stepping into flow was.
Yeah.
friend,
Mm.
I'm just like, thank you, Jesus, for the explosion.
Yeah.
Because trust me, that
Yeah.
saved my life. Because if that explosion had happened later, because here's the thing, like in so many ways, we are on our journeys and are on our paths. So like, I'm not saying if the explosion, I'm not saying one that we're all doomed for an explosion.
Although maybe I am. Go ahead.
I'm gonna ask you to talk about that if you're ready, by the way. I
I'm
want to
good.
hear
Let's
more
go.
about that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, like, I'm not saying that all of us are due an explosion, and I'm not saying that at any point you are wrong to have an explosion at that point,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
I'm saying, like, allow it to happen wherever it needs to happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But for
Mm-hmm.
me personally, if my explosion had happened maybe like at the end of this year or next year, it
Mm-hmm.
would have been so much worse. I can imagine. Because, like, I was building something that I was inviting people into, and that I was serving clients at a really high level, like people near the top of the online business space. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I had exploded, like at a point where I'd really built something, you know, maybe the roof wasn't on yet, and maybe it was only like
Yeah. Yeah.
stories, but it's
Absolutely.
still something. If I
Absolutely.
had exploded at that point, I would have hurt a whole lot of people. I would have
Mm-hmm.
probably completely demolished my business. I would have
Mm-hmm.
probably completely dishonored my clients, and it would have led to a lot of mess within myself. And I'm not saying, listen, like, if the explosion needs to happen, it probably needs to happen. And I would have found my way, because I'm coming to realize that no matter how much of a mess I am, like, I am always found somehow. The Lord finds me. He always finds me.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
whatever that looks like for you, like, you will be found. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, there are people praying for you and people sending you good vibes, and your ancestors have prayed for you. Like, those
Come on
prayers
now.
have not gone void. Like,
Hello.
so you are found. You will be found.
Grandmama's prayer is still working.
Still working, friend. I would give thanks for that every day. Like, no joke. Because I'm like, how many of my people who have gone before me have prayed for me, you know? And didn't know that it was me that they were praying for, but they prayed for me. Like,
Ooh,
I'm getting
you got me
I'm
wanting
getting
to sing,
goosebumps right
girl.
now. Like,
Listen,
I'm getting goosebumps right now, Fred.
I don't
But
know if you know the song. Do you know the song? My mama, is it mama, grandma? Pray for me, had me on her mind. Took the time and prayed for me.
so I know that is hilarious, because I don't know that the lyrics to that song,
Mm-hmm.
but I know the
Like the
tune
hymn.
of that song.
Okay. Yeah, girl, that's why, shoot, when you was like,
You
when I
know?
was like, you got me over here wanting to sing, that's what just came up for me. That's what just came up. And
Funnily enough, the song that we sing in Jamaica to that tune says, "Victory is mine, victory is mine,
all right now.
victory today is mine."
Hey,
So it's like,
love it. I love it. First of all, also shout out to both of us singing on live television. No, I'm kidding. I've never done that before. So real
neither
talk.
my friend.
I'm
That's the
sending
thing.
myself so much celebration right now. Okay. Because, you know, as we talk about like creating beyond fear and showing up as ourselves and acceptance and all of that, like that's been huge for me. So and also just shout out to like Spirit Flowing. Because that's all that moment was right there.
Yes.
And when it does, like, you can't make it up and you also can't hold it back. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I'm trying to look at the comments.
Thank you, girl, for paying attention to the comments.
But yes. Okay. Okay. No, just people agreeing. Just people agreeing.
Okay. Thank y'all for rocking with us. Thank you.
Yes, I'm glad that this is resonating with you all.
Yeah. Heavy.
But I think I was saying, I don't remember what I was saying, but I think I was saying that it just would have been, I would have been found and I would have been held and I would have been on the journey regardless. And it still would have turned into something beautiful. But I'm so thankful that it happened now, because the level of flow and fullness and presentness with myself that I'm experiencing now, that's just naturally like coming out of me. And I think about like what this will look like months from now if I stay in this place.
Wow.
And I'm just like, oh Jesus, thank you. You have legit saved my life. I feel saved. I feel I got saved. Thank you.
Wow. Yo.
But anyways, we want to come back to you because you said you need some exploding. What's that about, friend?
Okay, so you said I'm not saying that everyone is due for an explosion. And I said, although I might be, right? And what I mean by that is, you know, I wouldn't declare it as a hard and fast rule. Everyone's path is different.
Yes.
You know, and in my spiritual practice, the Orisha spiritual practice, we talk about essentially people having different paths, and that like legit your path, one person's path could be like harder than another person's path, right? Like you may have chosen a difficult destiny, or the metaphor is like a hard head, right? And so I don't know, that is what it is. Take it how it resonates or not. But what I am saying is, I think for a lot of us who have this pattern, who find ourselves following the rules, looking to authority or whomever, playing by that book in order to get what we need or want, and also to it's like the payoff, I think, that we think it is. The payoff is certainty, right? Because it's like, if I do this like this, I'll have this. Okay, boom. I'm safe.
Yeah.
There's safety in that, right?
Yeah.
I think for a lot of us, and I think we could say this for most people's survival adaptations, the psychosocial adaptations that they took on in order to make it in life and receive love, they simply are so entrenched that oftentimes we need an explosion. It takes an explosion. It just does, right? I'm not saying it has to. Usually, it just does. And also, I'm saying that in the vein that there's nothing wrong with an explosion. As you said, I wrote it down. You are not wrong for having an explosion. Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why we avoid them. First of all, we think they're going to kill us. Okay.
Yes. Because that's what. Listen,
die.
I thought that was it. Like, this is the end. This is the end of all of it.
So, yeah, we think that we will not make it. Literally, we think we will not survive. Right? And the fact is, typically, they are our greatest catalyst for growth. They are our greatest catalyst for situating ourselves for rebirth, honestly, for rebirth, and then coming to a place where we are on the natural flowing path of our destiny, right? Because if you need an explosion, or let's not even say need, if you experience an explosion, I think chances are it's going to be because you weren't on your own path, right? This doesn't even have to be about right or wrong. We all have our paths, right? We all have our destinies. We have our roles to play. If you had an explosion, chances are you wasn't on your path, baby girl. And somebody, something, spirit, everybody had to blow that shit up so that you could course correct, so that you could. And it takes time, right? Like, yeah, and it takes layers, but it's
like, listen, it is layered, and it is practice. Layered.
It's coming out of the smoke and just being like, what the fuck just happened, right? It's living through the shock. It's coming into trying to make sense of all of it. And then if we're lucky, or if we're able to find this part, then I think it's finally coming into understanding and appreciation for it, owning it, and owning the gift that's coming out of it,
right,
and walking the path that now you have, found, right?
yeah,
Girl, and I used to call, so I've been calling this, I'm about to talk about a period in my life that happened about a year ago, that so far this week I've been calling the Great Awakening.
Okay, friend, I think
it's funny. Yeah, I think it's funny because it's like the Great Awakening, not just mine, it's everyone's, right? So, and I used to call it like when my life fell apart, or I used to call it when my life blew up, right? Sure enough, an explosion, something I totally didn't expect. The ending of so much, and just out of left field, just like boom, like literally, it's almost like, I could have been in a car accident and just, literally blindsided, and thing after thing after thing. And Lord knows, ancestor knows, I absolutely needed it. I'm thankful for it. I'm grateful for it. I don't, and so much empowerment came and comes from me knowing that I wasn't wrong for experiencing it. There's nothing I did wrong that made it happen. This is beyond me, right? This explosion was beyond me, for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something we talked about, I think, in the first conversation. Typically, we look at things and we interpret our life situations through the lens of, this is happening to me. Why is this happening to me?
Yes.
As opposed to, why is this happening for me?
For me,
right?
Yeah.
As opposed to always assuming, knowing, believing that everything in our lives is happening for us, right? So I think that can also take us out of the place of blaming ourselves for finding ourselves in an unwanted situation. Right?
Yeah.
One thing I say to myself lately, for the past, I don't know, several months, is like, especially in the way that I experience situations, aftermath, my own emotions, I just have this commitment to not make any of it wrong, right? So this is what I say to myself, since nothing is wrong here, what is actually happening? Right? Can we talk about what's happening, since I'm deciding not to be in judgment of my feelings, be in judgment of my actions, be in judgment of what has unfolded. And so I love this conversation, and I love kind of making the explosion acceptable, right? Normalizing the explosion, okay?
Right.
If you find yourself in an explosion, sure enough, it hurts like hell. And I would say count yourself fortunate, right?
Yeah.
Count yourself fortunate. Your mama prayed for you, okay?
Listen.
And sometimes lately, because after I went through the Great Awakening or the Great Explosion, I've realized, there's all these mini explosions coming as well. Like, that's interesting, right? Almost like, okay, I guess I signed up to learn this way now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah. And I think I just lost my point, which is totally classic and fine. Were you gonna say something?
I think I'm like, so I'm pretty new to this.
Like the explosion thing.
The explosion and like the aftermath of that, like walking in it. Because I'm just like, when I tell y'all, I've never experienced a period like that in my life before. I literally had not. Where like nothing I tried was working. And I think very often, I wanted to speak to, and I don't know, I'm gonna bring it up. And if you think this is not we should stop, I can stop. But I think too, in the Black community, we are very used to that survival mode. And that survival mode can often look like being the first in your family to go to college, being the first to travel, being the first to have a successful business, being the first to like be promoted significantly at your job. You know, a lot of performance and success markers. And like in Jamaica, it's a lot about academia. So for us, it's like going to a good primary school, which is like junior high and high school, junior high, and then a good high school, like doing your exams and passing for a good high school, because you have to do like a national exam to go to high school here. So like, and then doing really, really well on your high school exams and getting into college. All the better if you can go abroad to study for college, because then you really made it. Because America
made it,
because America.
Yes.
And I think we just get used to being in that mode of like checking all the boxes and doing all the things right and being the overachiever, that the explosion can look like nothing that we've ever seen before. Like, what the heck is happening right now? This is not my life. This is not my life. And I mean, I'm just saying that it can look like this. I'm not saying that this is everybody. But I just, in that mode and from that place, I kind of process it a bit differently than you do, and I just wanted to share how I process it as well.
Please.
Because I personally feel like and look back on the last few months of my life and see areas where I feel it was wrong for me. Like I feel that I made wrong decisions, I made wrong choices, and I could have done better. So for me, it's important to look back and see that when the explosion happened. I think the explosion for me exposed like those decisions in a lot of ways, but it also exposed what was beneath those decisions.
Yes.
And allowed me to see that actually I have a moment where I can apologize to myself and release grace to myself and forgive myself for any kind of resistance, any kind of because a lot of it for me was a lot of resistance. And also just like recognizing where you haven't, and Ife, I'll bring up the thing that we said we wanted to talk about now, where you haven't, for me, it was where I haven't really loved myself in the way that we are all called, every single one of us as human beings are called to love ourselves. In a lot of ways, I was in a space of like, and I think it had a lot to do with like comparison and that kind of environment of like competition, check all the boxes, do all perform, get out of poverty, like help your family. The whole thing, right? And I think that can produce a lot, or in me, it produced a lot of comparison. And that led to me just thinking about myself in a way and loving myself in a way where it was like just enough. Like, I know I'm good, but I'm not good like all those other people. I'm good enough. And so I love myself just enough. And then that shows up in every single area of my life. So when I'm trying to grow and trying to build, it's like a just enough situation. So the whole thing implodes. So I can see that underneath all of this is my relationship to me.
Wow. Girl.
So I think for me, like, it's so the question that you used to process.
Yeah.
Can you repeat it, please? I think it's important to say.
The one that goes,
since nothing is
wrong here, what is actually happening?
Right. I think No.
I'm gonna jump in for a quick second.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to say, I think what you and I largely are doing is the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think the piece about, whether our actions or whatnot are wrong or not, for me is a matter of I move away from it because it feels like judgment,
Right.
and therefore something that I can't actually engage because I'm too busy judging it. Right. I'm too busy telling myself that was wrong and I shouldn't have done it. And that gets really close to that I'm wrong and that there's something wrong with me.
Right.
And then we're going back down a shame tunnel, which is where I'm trying to come out of.
Right.
So, and that layer you talked about, like what's underneath that is like what was behind that. When I say what's happening here, that's what
it is. Yeah.
I'm tapping into, instead of staying up here saying you shouldn't have done and you were so wrong and you should have known and and judging my feelings and saying I shouldn't be feeling it. It says, okay, what actually was operative here? What actually is operative here? What's going on? And then, as you said, because I'm not judging it, but I'm seeing it clearly, there's kind of a clearing for me to give myself what I need, acknowledge what's happened, take the lesson, without making myself wrong for whatever I may have done that may have gotten me to the lesson. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Also making lessons not wrong. Do you know what I mean? So I just wanted to grab that piece because I think I love what you're talking about, and I think it's very similar in that way.
Yeah, and I think too, like that, and I the reason why I wanted to repeat the question is because I just wanted to share, like, both of us to share different ways of processing this, so that
I'm glad you did. I appreciate
have it. like different tools or ways or
absolutely.
entry points into their own process. And I think what you did was, with that, since nothing is wrong here, you give yourself permission to release all the stuff, like all the judgment and all the things that would keep you in the tunnel and actually shove you further back down the tunnel.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that you can actually like get to the core thing. And so for me, I feel like the question so often these days is, where am I not loving myself well?
Love it.
Because I just, through the explosion, what I've learned, talking about lessons, what I've learned is that our internal world creates our external reality. And if I am not loving myself in here, my life, my finances, my relationships, all of it will not look full of love.
Woo!
So I am in the flow of doing the work, loving myself, because that's gonna pour out of my life.
Yeah.
And listen, the process of embracing all of our ish, because I think that's really what we're talking about here. It's like there is so much stuff that we wouldn't like it to be that way in here. And there's also so much stuff that's like truly beautiful and magnificent about who we are.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about allowing the messiness and the glory of all of it, I think this is the journey of our lives.
Yes.
It's the process of like learning to embrace all of it, be in all of it, and live out all of it. Peel back the layers, know ourselves, love ourselves, and release. Iterate. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love this thing of that you kind of got down to, that it was about you loving yourself, or not, right? And that reflecting, like wherever you were with that, being reflected in all of your outcomes, right? It also takes me to this idea of scarcity versus abundance, right?
Yes.
Or like restriction versus flow, right? And sure enough, for most of us, And right now I'm thinking about capitalist societies, Western societies. I try to be intentional about not throwing everybody in the same boat, right? Like we've all grown up in the same world. Like, no, that's some Eurocentric bullshit, actually. And for many of us, we've grown up and in these stories that we've talked about, you know, check all the boxes, be the one. It's this heavy scarcity energy, right? And
Yeah.
it's heavy distrust
Ooh,
energy. Yeah. It's like I
friend.
gotta be the one.
Yes.
I gotta be the one. There's not enough for everybody. So I gotta do
Mm,
exactly all these things, right? There's not a plethora of choices that you can make that will all turn
right.
out well. No, 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 no,
Right.
no. There are these many, okay,
Mm-hmm,
and there are
mm-hmm.
these many people to follow, and there's this much food to eat, and
Yeah.
it's just scarcity all the way down the line, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
speaking about survival, these patterns of survival come as a response to scarcity.
Yeah.
And,
Mm-hmm,
and you know, it goes up and down the layers because in our
mm-hmm.
personal experience, we literally experience this in our bodies, right?
Yes.
Feeling insecure, feeling scared, and being motivated out of that to try to do something different, to try to have something
Yes.
different, to try to have something that we don't have. You know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in the base of scarcity says I don't have, right?
Right.
And I don't have
Mm-hmm. I
enough.
lack. I
I
lack.
lack. I lack. So I have to go outside of myself, right? I don't
Mm-hmm,
have what I need within myself. I don't have what I need
mm-hmm,
within my home, my family, my country, whatever.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it's amazing, you know, how we can just take that up and down the scale and see how it plays
Yeah.
out. But it's also amazing to me just the degree with which it functions outside of even our awareness in
Yes.
terms of like if we're in that scarcity, we will produce scarcity.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say, friend. Like acting out of that lack just reproduces it, and then you see the lack, so you act out of it again, and
Yep.
it just
Because it's
like
like it's proven,
literally,
right?
it's
The
proven.
whole time you're creating it. But it's like that's what it is. That's what it is. This is
Mm-hmm,
the reality. Right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I, y'all, my heart burns so much for our communities, our Black communities, our families,
Yeah.
our single parent families,
Mm-hmm.
where this kind of cycle just like reproduces itself over and over. And listen, I have so many dear friends of mine and family
Yeah.
are literally stuck in a cycle of poverty,
Mm-hmm.
single parent pregnancy, abuse. And
Hmm.
like it,
It
it,
weighs
it,
on you.
it weighs and breaks your heart because you can see the scarcity reproducing scarcity and the
Mm.
lack reproducing lack. And listen, I'm not saying that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is like a really simplified version of this,
Sure.
but it's such a core thing that
Yeah.
it follows us through the generations. It follows us through all of our families. Like it follows us.
Deep. Deep.
And I think for all of us who experience the explosion, we have such a beautiful opportunity to
Boom. Invitation.
invitation
Invitation into abundance.
and listen, like no,
Into a
I'm
shift.
into
Go
a
ahead.
shift, into a shift. Not, and here's the thing, like we can we can care about deeply and die for our families, like live it, like y'all mean everything to me, without trying to be the savior from a place of lack.
Ooh, you better say that, Chelsea, because I want to say a few things real quick. You know, I want to acknowledge, of course, the impacts of colonialism, racism,
Mm-hmm.
um, global capitalism,
Yes.
neo-colonialism,
Mm-hmm.
right? The shit, fucking
Listen,
enslavement,
there
like
are a lot of
you
a lot
know,
of
all of the
systems.
things, right?
Yes.
And histories that impact us all, right? Very
Mm-hmm.
much so.
Yes.
And I want to say that for me, that doesn't go against what you are saying, simply because those very systems and cycles and histories were perpetuated from this very place. They were perpetuated from scarcity and lack, and taught that we are lacking, right? That we don't have what we need, that we are not worthy beings, that we are not okay without XYZ, the blah, 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 right? And these wounds now that find themselves, within us, that we find within ourselves, within our communities, they are here as a result, right? And they have perpetuated in all of that. Of course, it's our responsibility now. At the same time, we can be clear about many of the layers and the whatnot as far as how we've gotten here. But I'm trying to remember what I was trying to respond to. Was it that you said if we? No, it was something else. What were you saying? What did you just say right now?
I'm trying to remember what I said too.
We do
Somebody
this, right?
remind us in the comments.
No idea, right? I don't know if it was like if you feel scarcity, you reproduce it. No, we had already talked about.
No, I think I was saying that like we have such a beautiful. If you've experienced the explosion, you have such a beautiful.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tanya. Thank y'all for being with us.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around, y'all.
Yeah. Because we going in right now. If the explosion, man, the explosion is an invitation. Okay, it is an invitation to see with new eyes, to see outside of the bounds that we have inherited, I think, right? And the edifices or the beliefs, all the things that we've relied on for security, that simply are not true, in the sense that they don't match the core of who we are. They don't match who we are in our divinity, right?
Yes.
We are divine.
We are divinely created to be.
Exactly, right? And sure enough, we are a reflection of the universe, and the universe is a reflection of us, as far as I'm concerned. And what that means is the universe, well, what I mean by that is the universe is abundant. We are abundant. I'm abundant. You know what I'm saying? So in all of its divinity, like there is no inherent lack in any of us or any of us. And I think that's the pieces that really F us up, man, as in keep us in these wounded places and perpetuating it, is these beliefs, I think, of inherent lack. When we believe we are inherently lacking, like, because then it's like unconditional. It's like I can't even do anything about it, right? So even I'm gonna try, because I need to receive love. So out of a survival response, I'm gonna try, and it's like we can't surmount it, right? I think part of the reasons why we find ourselves following lists and gurus and degree after degree or whatever after whatever is because we're on this hamster wheel of seeking value, seeking approval, seeking appreciation, seeking love, seeking acceptance of the parts of ourselves that we don't believe are acceptable. When that's an inside job, right? And if we're constantly seeking, but our programming tells us that I'm inherently unworthy to begin with.
Right.
There's kind of nowhere you can go with that, right? And if I'm inherently unworthy, of course, my children are going to interpret that, right? And their children are going to interpret that, because how can you not pass it down, right? Such close quarters. And also, not only, the closeness of the relationships, but the survival. If this is what I've based my survival upon, surely I will give it to you because I want you to survive.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So I think what we're being invited to in our individual explosions and our collective explosions. Okay. Hello, coronavirus. Hello, police brutality. Hello. We won't go there. But however you wanna interpret it. And for me, we are being invited constantly, and I think most definitely now
Mhm.
collectively, to a shift.
Yeah.
It is the shift
Yeah.
from lack to inherent worthiness, from lack to inherent love of ourselves, so
Mhm.
that we can then create a world that
Mhm.
reflects that, right? Through
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
own individual realities and therefore our collective realities, our relationships,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
So, ooh, girl, that's the work. That's always the work.
It
When
is
you said
always
this,
the work.
when you said this, I'm like, oh, who knew we were doing the same work right now?
It
Who
is
knew?
always the
You
work.
know?
It is always the work. I want to say too, to your thing about like survival and how can we not pass that down.
Mhm.
I think too, like what has been passed down to us and what
Ooh.
can be passed down through us is coming from a place of like looking for and searching for that approval, that value, love, acceptance, but also safety.
Ooh, yes.
Cause like, I mean,
Talk about it, girl. Talk
like
about it. Talk
let's
about
I
it.
mean the obvious thing is like the day-to-day reality was death. The day-to-day reality was pain for our people. And that was over
Yeah.
however long, right? And
Hundreds of years, typically. I mean, yeah, yeah.
no, no,
However long. However, and I just say that because we won't get into the history. There's so many ways to
no.
history. But that long season in our history, or that season
Right.
of our history.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. And I think um a lot of, especially in our communities, a lot of the boxes that we check are so that we actually live, you know, like if in here, for example, here in Jamaica, if you go to school, get a good education, you can get a good job so you can
Yes.
eat.
Yes. Yes.
So that if you have children, you can provide for your children, you know?
Yep.
Um,
Straight up.
and so I think a lot of it too comes from a place of like not feeling, feeling like if we resist the explosion and do all the things, we are safe.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not. We are
Yeah.
safest when we are in our flow. We are
Yes.
safest when we are on the path of our destinies. We are safest when we are in a space that we are reflecting who we truly are.
Mm-hmm.
And as Ife was saying, that is full, that is abundant. I've come to have a tricky relationship with the word abundant because a lot of people use
I
it
feel
and
you,
they
girl. I
don't
totally feel you.
like they talk about it and they say
Yeah.
it and I'm like but you ain't actually like showing the do
But
though.
you ain't even real though, but you functioning out of scarcity anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
True. Like for the first time in my life, I've been working with a client recently, and like for the first time in my life, I believe somebody when they said to me, "Listen, whether or not you pay me, I don't care. God is gonna provide for me either way." And I was like, so people talk about this and people say this. I've heard, I'll call a name. I've heard Russell Brunson say this. He is
All right
like
now.
top of the online business space.
Yeah.
I don't believe him when he says that.
Sure.
Listen, he got a whole team of how many thousand people to feed? He ain't like, if I don't give you money, you don't get to feed those people. I don't believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have, no, granted, that's just me. I'm not saying that he's lying or whatever.
I got you, girl.
But,
look, and the kid like called him out.
I'm just saying that like when we can, there's just so much here for us when we tap into who we really are. And when we tap into who we really are, external situations, and I'm preaching to myself too, friends, because like I'm not here yet.
Trust.
I have not arrived. I've not arrived.
Constantly in the work.
Constantly in the work. But I feel so strongly and I believe so strongly that when we sink into and settle into and flow from who we truly are, that space of fullness and abundance is a real, like, is a literal day-to-day reality. And you do not have to depend on people. And like, well, let me not say depend. You don't have to worry about
I agree.
your provision. You don't have to worry about your safety. It shows up for you because
It shows up for you.
It will show up for you. I promise you, it will show up for you. And the amazing thing about it is, and this is what I'm trying to like sink into and settle into even more. And I'm like doing this because I'm like,
yes, the flow, honey. We in flow. This is it. This is it.
I just feel like, and the space that is so powerful that I think all of us have the invitation to get to is a space where even if people try to take from me, even if people try to hurt me, even if I seem to lose all of this outside stuff, because I'm so full and abundant in here, it doesn't matter because the vision will show up for me anyway, even if you take it.
And the whole way that you experience that experience coming from fullness, flow, abundance, and trust is going to be completely different than I have nothing, right? Because you never have nothing.
No.
You never have nothing. First of all, this is another reason why I think I was saying, I think everybody might be due an explosion because of what it teaches you, right? For me, what it teaches me is my grandmother, something my grandmother said is coming to my mind. She used to say, all danger ain't death, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like we need to, part of the explosion, the coming through and living through the explosion is realizing everything I was so terrified of, because most of us live terrified of that damn explosion.
Yeah.
And we live our life like we're like, wait, just please, right? Just please don't let me explode. I can't take an explosion.
Right.
Most of us who follow these kinds of patterns or who have lived these kinds of patterns, exposure can feel like the greatest danger of all, right? And during my explosions, and I think I can say at this point, I ain't new to this actually. I have often felt most exposed, and then therefore most free, at least eventually, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
I feel you on that because that fullness for me feels like freedom.
Boom. It is freedom, right? That feeling, that beingness within ourselves, that knowingness. Yeah. It's our own personal innate freedom that was always there, but we didn't know how to tap into it because we bought into the story,
lie,
right?
The lie from the pit of hell that I'm gonna show, like, you don't want me to start speaking in tongues up in here, Ife.
Look, I was about to say, girl. I was feeling it too, okay? Shut them down, girl. Shut them down. Listen, we bought into this, so the explosion helps us to reconfigure everything.
Yeah.
And to know and to see, first of all, that sometimes that's necessary. Okay. And when I went through it, it brought me to somewhere better, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, all danger ain't death. And we've been talking about this all this week, how our own cycles of creation follow the cycles of creation, right? The bigger cycles of creation in the world: birth, death, rebirth, right? And death we got to go through if we want to live into rebirth, right? We just do. Okay, it happens every year with the seasons. It happens every year with the crops. It happens all of the time. It happens with our own emotional cycle, right? We have seasons and we have to shed, sometimes. And sometimes that death looks like a quiet shedding. And sometimes that death looks like an explosion.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I love what you said about safety. First of all, that you brought that in, because that is very real, right? And all of this stuff is real, in terms of how we experience our experience, race, class, gender, etc., right? And I'm thinking when you brought, what you said about a lot of your folks in Jamaica, I thought about my mother and her generation, baby boomer generation,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being born to a mother who was a sharecropper, right?
Yeah.
And whose families were sharecroppers in Alabama, right? The
Mm-hmm.
southern US, where absolutely the way that she was raising her kids to check those boxes was in her mind so that they could survive on their own, so they could have some level of autonomy, and so that they could literally have control over their own reality, right? As opposed to answering to a racist white man, like, right, who
Right.
manipulative, et cetera, et cetera. And so, um, on various levels, and even in, you know, when we find ourselves not necessarily trying to move out of those maybe so literal dangers, um, it's always safety that we seek first as humans,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're seeking love, we're seeking safety,
Safety. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I also love what you said about when we're most safe, because you know, often we have a pattern or just a belief mechanism that we're safer with things outside of ourselves happening the way that we need them to.
Mm-hmm. And
And
it's challenging to rewrite that story in your
it
brain.
is,
It's so
which
hard.
is why the cycles have to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
We live through it by doing, right? Constantly.
Iterate.
Iterate, come on, iterate. All of the things. I was reminded of this thing that I wrote as I was going through my explosion last year. But it was something along the lines of, we are most safe when we deeply belong to ourselves, right?
Ooh, girl, I need that on like a something somewhere where I can see it
Gotta
every
put it on
single
a something,
day.
right? You know, because we search for belonging, most of us, outside of ourselves. We search for love outside of ourselves. We search for security. We search for safety. And we need those things, right? Like, none of those things are faults on
No,
us.
no. Those are
And
all legitimate natural needs.
absolutely. And I think the explosions come, right? Or the cycles come, whatever they encompass. Um, these invitations that
The
show up,
invitations show
right?
up.
These
Yeah.
invitations that show up, they show up to have us iterate through our own innate knowing that already knows this,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And to practice it
Mm-hmm.
and hold ourselves, accept ourselves, believe ourselves. I'm thinking of all the things that often we seek from other people, right?
People, yeah.
Believe,
Free
acceptance.
ourselves. Listen.
Okay?
Free yourself.
Because this is where freedom lives.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Like,
have this knowing inside of me, I love freely, I give freely, I interpret from a place of freedom, right?
mm-hmm. I see like all the choices before me. I see like
Boom,
all the
boom,
opportunities before me.
boom.
I'm not I'm not restricted in any way. Like, listen,
Come
can I
on,
just say, can I just say,
say.
when I stepped into this flow, I was like, wait, what am I gonna do with my life now? I could do anything.
I could do
Literally
anything.
anything.
Come
I
on.
was like, I was so like, you know, like a child in an ice cream shop with like all of
All
the
the things.
flavors,
All the girl,
and they're just sitting there like,
you preaching.
that's exactly what I felt like. I was like, there's so many cool things. Oh my God.
It's so real. It's so freeing. I mean, I think we may have been going through some level of revelation at the same time, because a couple months ago for me, you know, I released some things that, well, I had a whole series of revelations that we don't have time to go into now, but I began to see my power in so many ways, and many things that I hadn't, right? I realized how many opportunities there were for me to redefine my relationships with things like work, with all of these things that I had resisted because I didn't like how everybody else did them, and how you had to, I didn't like the box, right? I was like, God damn it. I pretty much made up the box. I can remake the box. I've been giving all this power away, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I remember when I released some of the things necessary for me to kind of start over and start walking in my own everything, right? The definitions of my everything and how I was going to live this and live my nest and live my path in the world. Literally, it was like, oh shit. It literally felt like the world was
open up.
and it just opened up.
It just opened up to you.
Up. Yep. And it was like literally, it was like, oh shit, this is a little scary.
Right? Yeah, right.
It was like, this is a little scary. And it also was like, but wow, this is really like empowering, right? Girl, and then I literally took a walk on the world that was now open for me on the road, right? And this thought came to me, right? It was like, well, shit, like now all that's left is for me to do my work in the world.
Ooh, yes,
that's it. Jesus. The barriers are gone. The boxes are gone. I'm ready. I've released what's necessary for me to release. Literally, everything is open for me. Now all that's left is for me to step in and do my thing. So what do we even want to do? What do we even want to do?
That is, listen, y'all, if you are going through an explosion right now, I just gotta tell you.
Hold on. Hold on.
We just preach it to you. Hold on.
The change is coming.
Listen, you are about to come out the other side and it is gonna be like the whole world.
Ain't that the part of
glory?
The glory.
It's like heaven just opened up. And you're
like, wow, what did I deserve to be able to have heaven opened up to me right now at 28? Right? And now literally the rest of our lives are this beautiful, glorious, like playpen of what do I want to do now? Right?
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that the iteration stops, right?
No. But it means that we always, I mean, if you'll allow me to
go on.
I think it means that we get to know that this is home now.
Ooh.
Or default isn't our default anymore. This is new. This is the new home now.
I get to Chelsea
from here. Ooh. Every single time, any explosion I have, any other invitation that comes that feels uncomfortable,
that feels home. It's for my homecoming.
It's from home.
Yes.
It's from home and it's for home.
And it's for home. Boom. Girl, when you be trying to say something and then your homegirl be like, let me jump in. And then she says it like a bazillion times better than you could have even thought about it. I'm just like, what was I even going to say? I have no idea. But you know what we need? We need somebody to go through this conversation and pick out all the things that need to go on a t-shirt.
Listen, mugs, like banners in my room. Girl, I opened my notes app because I was like, I need to write down some of this ish because I need to remember like all of the quotes that need to be on t-shirts and mugs.
Let me tell you what happens when me and Chelsea get together and we just start on one of these. And Shirley can attest to this.
Yes, Shirley can.
Like we just get in a vibe, honey. The spirit come on through, and it's just. And like, who knows? I had taken some notes or something about where the convo was going. I don't even know. But we just go and we say things that we don't remember.
Ever.
That's how you know it's spirit as far as I'm concerned. Because like, where was I even at? What did I even say? I don't know. But this joint was live. Wow. We got like gifts popping off in the comments. I don't know what they're called. Nakia says, coming home in your body. That's a space I'm trying to allow. Word, Nakia. Nakia says, I should have been here all week. Girl, there are replays. It's all good. You can,
I just want to say,
as if you were there live. It's all to the G.
I just want to pop in and like just jump in and say real quick. You say I so honor you. I just want to say you are amazing. And the fact that you have like given of yourself this week, I'm so honored to know you, like so privileged to be a part of this. Friend, you have opened up so much for so many of us. And
you.
it's a deep, real work that you are gifted beyond measure to do. And I am privileged to be a part of your journey.
Oh my God.
And that's my thank you from all of us who are listening to you.
Oh, wow. That just is like, so now I'm going to cry actually. Wow. I didn't even think we were at the thank yous yet, right? Like I was gonna get there.
But sorry.
I know, I'm just like, Chelsea. No, wow. I'm overjoyed. I'm literally flooded with emotion. I feel so gratified and full and whole to have had this conversation with you, to have had this conversation with you now at such a time as this, to have had this conversation with you the last day of this series of conversations. I mean, could we put a better cap on this thing? Like, this literally was like our praise break out the door. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
like, this was just the crown on the whole thing. I'm so grateful to be friends with you, like that we were brought together in such the wild, random way that we were for such greater purposes that continue to show themselves.
Yes.
I really, 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 really appreciate. By the way, if there's anything you all loved or took away from this conversation,
please let us know in the comments.
Or this conversation, let us know in the comments. If you ever do like an event with me or like a workshop with me or anything, you know that the way that I end is with something I call appreciations, which is where we go around the room and just say anything we authentically appreciate. So if you're here with us live, even if you're with us on the replay, hit us with something that you appreciate or are taking away from this conversation. Let's make it a love fest, right?
Yes, please.
But I really deeply appreciate you trusting me to have this conversation, right? And showing up in your fullness. First of all, just saying yes after being like, what do I have to say about this, Ife? I'm not an expert on this topic, right? I'm like, of course, Chelsea, we're not doing experts. And of course, like, that is the whole thing. We come as experiencers of this real life experience. Like we are experts of our own experience, right?
Yes.
That's all that's needed. That's all that's necessary. That's what I endeavor to give to the world. And so thank you for saying yes, for trusting me, and then trusting yourself. This girl trusts herself, okay? Let me tell you. She's like, yeah, girl, we gonna flow, girl. We gonna flow. It's all good. You know, because we do.
Because we do.
For allowing, right? And for being a beacon for allowing all of the things and for iterating through your process, for showing up, for staying in the game, for learning and just being where you are. Like, wow. Any last thoughts? Anyone? All of us? You?
All the people?
Me?
I did have something that I wanted to say to end. If I can, to leave the people with a scripture, is that okay? There's something I've been meditating on for like nearly half a year now, actually before the implosion. And I kind of feel like in a lot of ways the implosion was because I was meditating on that.
Absolutely. I meant to say, you remember that thought that I forgot about?
Oh, that was what it was?
The thought was, I realized through some of these explosions, when I go through them, I'm like, oh, this is probably because I've been praying for this thing. I've been praying for this. I've been asking for this elevation, and guess what? It feels like death right now, but that's exactly what this is. That is why this is here, and I gotta have the courage to go on the journey to come out and have my prayers realized.
Ooh, that is legit, like no joke. I got so mad at God. I was so frustrated. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I look back in my journal and I'm like, oh, I prayed.
It was me.
So you just being faithful. Got it. Okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Yes, friend. Legit a lot of these explosions are
Yes.
invitation to elevation that are answers to prayer.
Boom.
But what I was gonna say was,
Yeah.
the scripture says that everything we need for life and godliness has already been lavished on us. And that word lavished.
Yes. You know, I tapped in when you said lavished.
I know. And that's why I want to share it. And that's why I wanted to share it, because I think for me, with my sticky relationship with abundance, that word lavished is like, whoo, yes, Jesus.
That is
lavish me, Jesus. Lavish me.
Like, you know,
all the things. Like, you know, like when you got out of a really nice bath and like you like,
don't get me started.
Like, lathering on the shea butter and you just feel like,
listen. Now I feel like I gotta call this into the space. In my spiritual practice, the energy of abundance. So, you know, these energies or divinities. Divinities they're known as Orisha. And they're aspects of nature. They're seen as aspects of nature, or they're tied to aspects of nature. And they also tend to have like a human expression, right? This energy is, and she is Oshun, which is an energy that I walk with. Shout out. Oh, there you go. She's personified as feminine, but like it is the energy of the river. It is the energy of flowing fresh water, right? It is the energy that sustains life, right? She's also connected to childbirth and children and connectedness, relationships. What'd you say?
And doulas.
Yes. Inside joke, but
inside joke, totally.
but actually though, right? Like real life, with sensuality. With, like, she is the one who would be lavish, like this step out the bath energy. I'm feeling so, you know, like lush scents.
Yes.
This is literally the energy of Oshun, of the river, of abundance, of flow, of care, of connection, of love. She's literally the divinity of love, right? So even the abundance that we feel when we feel connected and safe and loved and taken care of, right? Like it's seen as this, all the same energy, right? Different flows and expressions of the same energy. So we in it, y'all. I feel like we started in this very like watery place, and we've ended in this in this like lovely watery place, right?
Yes. Okay, I agree.
A few of these comments before we jump off. Nakia says, welcoming the explosions. I went through a big one at the end of last year, but this one, woo! It's been so hard, but thank y'all for being so open about this and dropping sermons. LOL. Ariel talking about Ife. Yes, God, I'm through with you. Nakia says we love to see it. All right, y'all. My heart is full. Chelsea, tell the people where they can find you. They can get some more of this, and I think we're just gonna have to do this at some point.
Yeah, honestly, friend, I'm feeling we're gonna talk because I feel like this conversation was so good, and I feel like it opens up space for so many people who are here, who are to come, and I feel like if we open up the space, the people who need it will come and receive, you know, and we will receive, because like I'm full too. I'm like, oh snap. Like, you know, a lot of times, y'all, all the things in your heart, you don't realize until it comes out your mouth and you're like,
oh, you better talk to the people, Chelsea. Okay, because I'm over here like, what just happened? I'm gonna need to re-listen to realize what happened. You know what I mean? Like, and I think also what you and I bring out of each other, the flow, the love, the trust, all the things. We all, it's a flowing good time, right?
It's an
abundant, lavish, flowing good time that we all benefit from. And so we definitely need to keep this energy going. We're going to talk. So y'all, if you wanna be up on whatever comes of that, please follow me.
Yeah, follow Ife.
Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on IG,
Instagram.
Moyo.
All
You
the things.
can sign up at tiny.cc/being ourselves for more in general and in terms of whatever becomes of on being ourselves. Chelsea, where can the people find you though?
Hold on. I'm writing the link in the comments.
Okay, great. Chelsea, putting the link in the comments. Can you say it out loud just in case this video ends up somewhere else?
Oh yeah, Tiny. Oh, I should. Oh no, not mine. Yours. I was just putting
Thank
Tiny.
you. Where can we find you, Chelsea?
Well, you can find me at the Launch Copy Coach here on Facebook and on Instagram. It's in transition because the more I told Ife this earlier, the more I love myself, the more all this stuff is coming out, and it's not businessy, but it's like real internal. And I'm not gonna stop it because I'm in the flow. And I'm not resisting this because it's beautiful and it's freedom. Y'all,
it's freedom. It's juicy, right? Abundance. I feel like we could just wax poetic about this for like.
Listen, we could go in about this.
We talking about grapes and wine and all kind of stuff in a minute. Lord have mercy. Nakia, much love and gratitude for this convo. Yes. I also just wanna appreciate about this conversation really quick about you, Chelsea, and about both of us. Excuse me. Our ability, I think, in our friendship and in this conversation, especially to make room and space for how both of us show up spiritually. Like, I just want to go ahead and call that out. And, you know, I appreciate that about you. I appreciate that about myself. I'm here for that in general, like in our spaces of finding ourselves, that we make room for the ways that we live our path and find ourselves, right? And have both of us showing up in our nest and honoring that, you know, for ourselves and for each other, right? So shout out to us modeling that real quick for the world. Hello. All right. If all hearts and minds are clear, I just want to say thank you. No. Listen, I have a whole line of a family who were preachers and pastors. And
I know, you told me.
Listen, and they be wanting to come up and out and through me, okay?
You have that energy.
Up and out and through me. Hallelujah. Anyway, y'all, thank you so much for rocking with us for these last 4 days. Thank you for rocking with me, for trusting me, for showing up, for clicking the link, for oh Lord.
You okay, friend?
I'm okay. There was like a half sneeze, I don't know what happened, but it's cool. You know, it was I don't know, rejoicing. Anyway, thank y'all. Just thank you from my whole heart. And I look forward to being with y'all again. Stick around, stay close. Much love. Love y'all bunches. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.